You see, a few years ago, I was very much into pool. I was learning to play pool competitively. And there was an evening where I gathered with a group of friends in a small pub. There was a small table, already some people playing pool. That's where one of my friends came and said, "Vincent, why don't you play pool with those people?" I don't normally play pool outside. But before I was able to say no, he said, "Vincent, let's see whether you're as good as we think you are." Oh, there's a lot of ego in that statement. And because of that, I agreed. I went down to the pool table. I wrote my name in a scribble and made the floor tremble. You see, I was learning to play competitively, and those people were casual players. I have so much advantage, and therefore I beat all of them. I feel really great to show off to my friends. And all the people were focusing at me. All my friends were focusing at me. But you see, good things didn't last. And after a while, my performance dropped. And when I missed the first shot, it was a very clumsy shot. As a Toastmaster, I like to learn from my mistake. I like to find out the root cause. So I walk around, find a few things, and I look at the pool cue that was from the pub. It wasn't very straight. There were two dents. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, when I'm training in the pool saloon, I always use world-class equipment. Always maintain at tip-top condition. And therefore, when I'm using a pool cue that is substandard, I couldn't really perform. You see, I found the reason, found the root cause, and I was happy to move on. The second time, while playing really well, I made another clumsy shot. And this time, it was a difficult clumsy shot. It was not really the pool cue. I used that up already. So I look at the lightings. You see, the lightings was not so bright when I was training. Lighting is one of the most important factors. It is always bright to ensure that players like me are able to see the placing and spacing clearly. But when you're in a pub, you're not supposed to see things that clearly. You're supposed to see people, especially those with opposite sex, with imagination. Imagine that they are very nice looking. And because of this imagination, I made the clumsy shot. I found the reason. The third time I made this clumsy shot, I know exactly. It was the beer. You see, when I was training, alcohol is absolutely prohibited to ensure that players always have a clear mind. But in a pub, if you try not drinking, you'll be kicked out by the bartender. So ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, all these were external factors. I was not to be blamed. At this point, there was a young man came. He said, "Francis is his name," and he asked me for a game. I said, "Of course, the more the merrier. Please come and join me." But Francis, he played with a unique posture. You see, most of us pool players, we would put our palm on the pool table, the cue on top of our palm, bend a little bit in a very sexy position. But Francis was different. Francis, for some reason, liked to put his entire arm on the table, the pool cue on top of his palm, and bend in a very uncomfortable position. This position is not just uncomfortable, it could be even painful. But Francis continued. He focused on every single shot, as if that shot is the last shot of his life. He focused on every single execution, as if that execution is about life and death. The game took longer than expected, clearly. But no one no one in the pub was complaining, because all of them were focusing on this game with anticipation, enthusiasm, and empathy. Empathy, because Francis is not an ordinary person. Empathy, because Francis has only 5 fingers. For some reasons, all 5 fingers on his left palm were amputated. I was playing with a handicapped person. Francis is a disabled person, medical term. But ladies and gentlemen, Francis is far from being disabled. With a concentration so focused, a focus so intense, he focused on every single shot. He focused on things that he can do instead of things that he can't do. That night, he beat me with a perfect score. And when he won that game, every single person in the pub stood up and cheered for him, gave him a standing ovation. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, the sight of Francis made me feel embarrassed. The sight of Francis made me rethink my mental hurdles. Because not so long ago, I was still complaining about the pool cue that was not so straight. The lighting was too dim, and I had some beer. Francis has all these disadvantages and more. Francis has the unthinkable handicap and achieved the glory. Ladies and gentlemen, what about us? As club officers, sometimes we will be thrown into a situation where things are uncontrollable, where things are out of our ability to manage. Sometimes there will be a situation where no matter how much effort you put in, and we still can't get it successful. But in those situations, ladies and gentlemen, I urge that you recall the story of Francis. You recall the player with only 5 fingers, who focused on what he can do and not what he can't do, and achieve the glory. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge that you focus on what you can do and not what you can't do. Please repeat after me. Focus on what we can do and not what we can't do.
Focus on what we can do and not what we can't do.